Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays, a podcast by Tornado IP, where innovation meets strategy and IP. I'm Dr. Szilvia Zepp, and it's my pleasure to introduce Rujita Singh, founder of Solve Together, a unique transformation and change consultancy. Rujita works with leadership teams to turn AI from a buzzword into real organizational capability with a focus on practical implementation, change, and effective collaboration through AI. She's especially interested in how businesses can adopt AI safely and responsibly without slowing innovation, which is exactly why today's conversation is timely. Rujita, everyone is worried about employees leaking sensitive information into ChatGPT and other AI platforms. Is this actually an AI problem, or is it a clarity and culture problem, in your opinion?
I think it's a clarity problem to start with. AI makes it more aggravated. It makes it more emphasized. It exposes it more. What I mean by that is something as simple as, do your employees know what do you mean by sensitive data? And you can't just say all data, because that's not true either. Not all data in your company is sensitive data. You need to really qualify that to help your employees. So when you're telling them, oh, do not put sensitive data into ChatGPT, let's say, they don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean by sensitive information? And you have to really break it down. Is it pricing information? Is it client information? If it is client information, what does that even mean? Some of us know what personal information entails. Some of us don't. And don't make assumptions about everyone knows what sensitive data means. Make it super clear for them. This you cannot put in ChatGPT. This are the examples that you can put in ChatGPT. And that when you make that very, very clear, I don't think anybody wants to do a bad job at their work. Like, people don't do that. They generally do it because they either don't know, or they're confused, or it happens because they are not sure what that meant. They don't understand the consequences.
It sounds like this is a problem of training that might have predated the Gen AI tools.
Yes, because I think, yes, but at the same time, like I said, AI aggravates the problem. It is putting it's exposing it. So now we have to care about it, which probably we didn't have to that much before. It's not that sensitive data wasn't getting leaked before, right? You still had emails, you have WhatsApp, there are lots of different channels that people can share sensitive data with. What is happening with AI is that people are not necessarily doing it because they want to share or leak information. They're doing it because they want to be productive at their work. And that's the difference.
In your opinion, where is the healthy line between collaboration and protection for an innovation team?
I don't know what you mean by protection for innovation team. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I'm thinking about an innovation team that's trying to collaborate across organizations. For example, a company team wants to collaborate with a team in a university, or two different company innovation teams. And, people are used to sharing and collaborating. Coming from a university setting, you grow up as a scientist collaborating and sharing everything.
Yes.
So, there has to be at some point a realization that some things can be shared and some things can't.
100%. And to your point, exactly what I was trying to say is that when you are collaborating, whether it's internally or across company, once you make it very clear what can be shared and what cannot be shared externally, and what is important to be shared for that project or for that innovation to happen, then you can lay down those rules. The issue that comes, and I don't think it's a training issue either, because the training issue happens is when there was a clarity, people just didn't know. I think it's even more deeper than that probably there was not an exercise done where a company has sat down and evaluated. These are all the types of information that we hold. And this is what we can share, and this is what is sensitive and we shouldn't share, or this is highly sensitive, or this actually links to our IP and trade secrets. Most companies probably haven't done that kind of analysis to start with.
Thank you. This is really, really interesting for me. As I mentioned before, Rujita and I come from really different backgrounds, which is why we wanted to have this conversation. And I wanted to give the microphone to Rujita to ask me questions and talk about, the different perspectives we.
Yes, Szilvia, because I was so curious that on one hand, I come from a place of thinking of open source and collaboration and and sharing, and this idea that I come from an abundance mentality, that when we share, it grows. On the other hand, you come from an IP, patent, protection, trade secret, keep everything things like, close. And at the same time, I know that this is an important topic for a lot of companies. And I was like, who is going to be more appropriate to ask these questions that I have than you? And so I was so curious about having this chat with you. So one of my questions before I even go anywhere is, what is IP? Even just if you can break it down. We use a lot of words, trade secrets and patents, like we said, and then we have US laws and UK laws and EU laws. What are we dealing with? What are we talking about? And why don't we just, as a humanity, share everything? I'm in this from this ideal world, but I know.
Great question. And I think this is a very, very good question that a lot of people will ask. I come from a background as a scientist where I got my PhD from Yale, and I have never learned any of these things. So define these terms is very important. And I think properly teaching and defining it for innovative people in companies and universities would really help a lot of the things that we were talking about in the first segment. So intellectual property has many, many different components. Intellectual property is knowledge that creates value, and it can be a patent, it could be a trade secret, it could be a license agreement, it could be a trademark, and really I think of this as a big quadrant or bucket of different things for an innovative company or an innovative person that adds value and protects the value of what they created. So why do we need to have these things, and there's laws that protect these things, is because innovation costs money. People invest in innovation. There must be a way for the person that has innovated or the company that invested in innovation to make some money or protect that innovation for at least some amount of time. Otherwise, how can they continue to do the innovation? So one of these things that I mentioned in the IP buckets have different types of laws that provide different types of protection. I have an entire 90-minute seminar that goes into just patents. So on a high level, and then another one on trade secrets,
I'm sorry.
and so on. So you can really dig into the laws, because it is appropriate to really understand the laws if those are the things that you're going to rely on. But on the highest level, patents protect your innovation for 20 years from the filing date. And one of the biggest misconceptions around patents is that when you file a patent, now you have the right to practice, to make your product. But this is actually not true. According to patent law, if you file a patent and the patent grants, you have the right to prevent others from making what you invented. This is a very big distinction, and I was thinking about a nice practical example today to explain this concept, because this is a nuanced concept. And for example, imagine recently we had the COVID vaccines. The COVID vaccines have a very innovative technology behind them. The mRNA vaccine technology is a very new innovation. It's not, none of the other vaccines before that were based on that platform. So the people that invented that platform really did something new. So let's say they file a patent, and the patent goes to the patent office, and you file this patent in, usually any invention, you'll file it with patent offices in different countries where you want to manufacture and make your product. So that costs quite a bit of money. But let's say you do file this patent, and then the patent offices examine your patent and go back and forth with you to really truly assess, is this really a new innovation, or you just came up with stuff that has no merit? And is this really something that solves a problem? So you go back and forth for a little while usually, but if it's really truly innovative, you don't go back very much, because they say, oh my gosh, this is really brand new, you got your patent grant, and here are your granted claims. And so you have granted claims, and so now these are granted claims that now you can prevent others from practicing. So for example, when you have these granted mRNA vaccine patent claims in all these different countries, wherever they grant, you can stop somebody else who tries to make that for the 20 years duration of the patent, as long as you keep on paying your fees. So there's fees involved everywhere. Fees for filing the patent, and then to maintain your patent for the 20 years periodically, you have to make a payment to that patent office. Right. So the concept of who could you stop from making your innovation? Yeah, you could certainly stop anybody that wanted to make an mRNA vaccine, even if that mRNA vaccine was against something that, is a subsegment of like a, maybe a cancer mRNA vaccine might be prevented based on how your patent claims are. You might be able to prevent them because they're using the technology that you came up with for a cancer vaccine. Again, this kind of assessment has to be done with a careful analysis by a patent attorney. And before you start making your product, a freedom to operate analysis has to be done that compares what you're trying to do against granted patent claims in different countries, and the patent attorney needs to give you an opinion of where you're able to make that product so as you don't infringe.
So how do you use AI? And how do you use it?
Absolutely, I use AI. AI is my IT guy, for example. If I don't know, I use AI extensively, but I don't put any proprietary information that's a unique information into it, but
so how do you use it? What do you use it for?
I use it for marketing. I teach it my style of writing marketing documents. Mm-hmm. I have it review what I'm planning to do. I have it give me ideas of what a Tornado IP should market based on the product offerings that we have. I'm constantly teaching myself how to use it, honestly. This is not something that I was born how to do, but I'm a curious person and I like to try new things. So yeah, I definitely leverage it for a lot of things to help me.
So I have a question about that. There's this idea about training AI models on your data. Because to be honest, it's not that when you're putting something in ChatGPT or something like that it's getting leaked. Because it's not going anywhere. It's very different from somebody actually sending an email out with all sensitive information to another person. This is going into a model which we don't know how it can be or it will be used. And most of the time, that information is not accessible to anybody, like any model as well. So if we put that in that perspective, and I'm not sure how much or what kind of things that you've come across when it comes to AI training models and IP and trade secrets. But what's your view on that? Why would, if you put something that is patented, let's say, and you put that in the training model, it's not that it's going to be leaked anywhere. So what is the problem with that?
For patented information, actually something I didn't mention is anything the patent law protects, but in exchange you have to make that freely available to anyone.
Right.
Your patent publishes 18 months after you filed it, and everybody can learn your technology. So it's actually a really collaborative aspect to it.
I didn't know that. So it's not
Yes.
that it's secret. It's like
No.
it is actually public. Okay.
After the first 18 months. So the 18 months while it's not published, you can still keep on innovating and working on it and make your claims broader, apply more patents. So at that point, you wouldn't want to tell everybody about it. But after the 18 months, the Patent Office websites freely publish everything. And so that's not a concern at all. That first 18 months might be because I don't know, and again, if I'm working in a company that has an innovation, and I will start putting things into ChatGPT that hasn't been published yet, I would want my IT group to really take a look at that AI tool that the company is using to make sure that the thoughts, that the innovative ideas that I'm putting in is not shared to the outside world.
If you told ChatGPT to be creative and innovative and come up with 10 ideas, it would. And then you could tell it to do another 10 ideas and another 10 ideas, and you can play that game for eternity. So what? You know what I mean? I'm not sure how far can we actually protect creative ideas in the fullest sense. Maybe today we still can, but I don't know. I don't think either of us have answer to that. It's just something that, I'm thinking about. But anyway, yeah.
So I wanted to say to that is a really, really interesting comment. And absolutely, ChatGPT is super creative. But to make a product, it takes much more than just being creative and coming up with a patent or a trade secret.
Yes.
It costs knowledge. You have to have manufacturing capabilities. You have to have relationships with customers. So that's like a big, umbrella of things that you have to strategically consider before you file a patent, before you make a product. And those are the things that a company, when it's innovating, is considering, and a business is considering when they're investing in something. And ChatGPT probably doesn't know, hopefully doesn't know, all those different elements that ought to be considered.
Yes, yeah, sure. I think you've already given a lot of useful information for me.
Okay, so I guess you and you're like poking at this question, and like I think let's talk about this. AI, is it a threat to innovation or a multiplier? From your perspective and my perspective, we can both say to what we think.
I think it's a multiplier. I mean, I have heard of so many incredible stories already. And this was even before, this was 2025. I've heard about the reversal aging research, where they were able to do the epigenetic gene combination, which could have taken them, I don't know, 10,000 years, and they were able to do that in a month. And that is incredible. There are things that are possible now that were never possible before. And I think it's definitely going to be a multiplier for innovation and humanity's progress.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Like I keep on being amazed, and especially like medicine is huge. Some of the data that AI needs to be innovative is protected from it. It's like in-house information, and different industries have to allow it to work on it. One example, I recently was listening to a podcast. I think it might have been either Hidden Brain or Freakonomics. They were interviewing a medical doctor and researcher from Colombia who was innovating with AI. And he says that their discipline in particular, which is applied medicine, like, with patients, they're very cautious in utilizing AI. But where they are utilizing it, it's fantastic. And one of the examples it mentioned is EKGs, where you can give EKG traces to a ChatGPT or Gen AI type system, and they will be able to quickly tell you if a patient that looks perfectly normal from the biggest medical experts, that this patient has a failing heart. And what's more than that, ChatGPT cannot explain to a human why they said that, because they're phenomenal at pattern recognition, and it's really, really interesting. So, but they now, in the Columbia healthcare system in New York, they now have a rule that anybody that comes in with anything to the emergency room, their EKG gets scanned and fed into an AI system, and they have saved multiple lives where a young person came in with like a broken leg, and they said, oh my God, you have a heart problem, and then they would follow up the EKG with very expensive imaging and confirm that, yes, this person probably needs a heart transplant, otherwise they might die. But for that kind of thing to happen, this very open-minded physician had to say, listen, we're going to be like putting our foot down and putting all the EKGs through. So to me, like there's very conservative systems that will just not let it touch really important things. And okay, if this was before Gen AI, maybe there's some really nuanced way of interpreting EKG data that would allow you to see this, and you as an inventor could have invented that, but the human brain is not capable to see this level of pattern. But I think to continue this kind of thinking, I think data needs to be allowed, internal data sometimes, because this is patient data. So how are we going to properly do this so the patient names are not everywhere? For example, like it's very thoughtfully needs to allow to digest data and then look at the results and advocate for implementing. Like, yeah, Colombia, this is going to be implemented. I don't know, it's probably not implemented anywhere else.
Right.
There's just this human drag, but there's also needs to be the human vision and strategy to properly leverage.
I mean, to be honest, at that level, when you're looking at Colombia or enterprise level, as I call it, or choose to call it, companies have so many options these days, because when you use enterprise ChatGPT or Cloud Teams, there is an assurance that the data is not going to be used for training purposes, and that means that you can put data in through, and that is not going to be leaked because it's secure.
But you need the human who has a big enough clout in the system to advocate and push for it.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And this is where half of my work happens, most of my work happens actually, is to actually looking at where are those opportunities for AI which are really going to be extremely valuable for everyone involved.
also want to highlight here that you need like a cross-functional knowledge, which is kind of, I sit in this cross-functional space with my PhD in chemistry and biophysics and US patent bar and business degree, where I can open eyes to how like this could be amazing, and I think, that's kind of the kind of person that needs to advocate and make sure the tool is properly used and then implemented, because otherwise it's just a lot of missing opportunities.
Sure. What tool are you talking about? The ChatGPT?
Yeah, a Gen AI tool, like, for example, this example that I just gave with the EKG, like somebody needed to have a vision for like, yeah, this could work. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to advocate for it. That's a pretty big deal. And I see this in every industry where these kinds of people need to use the tool and advocate for it.
Yeah, for sure. Makes sense. That they think about the solution before understanding the problem. I think that's the most frequent one. I don't know about the biggest one, but definitely the most frequent one that I see. People already have solutions in their head when they come to the discussion. Worst is that everyone in the room will have a different solution. So they'll be like, oh, we have to do it this with AI. And somebody will say, no, we have to do this with AI. This is more important. So we also have alignment issue even with exec members. I think as humans, we tend to jump to the solution. Really, we are so inclined, including myself. As soon as we see a problem, we want to solve it, and we don't spend enough time in really getting to the depth of what is this problem, why do we have this problem, what are we trying to achieve even. So what ends up happening is you're solving for symptoms rather than solving from the problem.
Yeah, I think that that's an issue that predates AI.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with AI. That's a problem that we always had. And I think what we have been saying is AI just exposes these problems. It aggravates the problem because it's so quick now to build something, to solve something, that you end up creating solutions really, really quickly that actually don't solve the problem.
Yeah. What's one AI myth that needs to die?
Maybe you can call it a myth. So AI, the way I see it is people think AI is the shortest word in the world. Just 2 letters, but it genuinely means hundreds of different capabilities. And the one myth I think people think, and it's very hard for our brains to comprehend what AI can do because it can do so many things. The myth is that they think AI is one thing. So they've seen something and they think that is what AI is. It's the typical example of, do you know that story where there are people seeing this elephant and somebody seeing do you know that image? Somebody seeing the legs, somebody seeing the nose, and they think elephant is this, it's actually a mouse, or it's actually that's literally how I see everywhere. People think AI is a chatbot, some people think AI is a Gen AI, people think AI is ChatGPT, people think AI is agentic AI. It's all of those things. It's not one thing. I think that's the biggest misconception people have about AI, that it's one or two things.
Do you have any lightning round questions for me?
Yeah, sure. I would love to ask you so many questions. So, if you explain patents, but if you had to explain trade secrets to somebody in 60 seconds, what would you say?
Trade secret is protected by federal and state laws in the United States, and similar types of laws exist in other countries. And a trade secret law prevents people from inappropriately taking your information. And a trade secret is something that a person or a company can have, and in order to have the law protect that secret, they have to abide by a few things. It has to be something that they really truly invented, and other people couldn't figure it out on their own. If it's like, if I look at the thing, I could put it together in my garage, but that can't be a trade secret. And it also has to be properly kept as secret. So if every company will have like 500,000 people and 500,000 people know it, then you cannot call it a trade secret. A good example of a trade secret is a Coca-Cola formulation, for example. In order for Coca-Cola to really call that a secret, I think the way they used to do it, and they probably still do it, is not one person knows every single thing that's in it. Like 10 different people know one thing. So it's really not easy for, it to get out, because obviously the more people know something, the easier it is to get out. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, you can't just like take it into your garage, put it into a machine, and figure out its components. And you can look up trade secret theft in Google search, and you can find out that companies that had trade secrets stolen can utilize their law to go after the person and enforce those laws. And very often people have stolen trade secrets will go to jail for 10.
So when would you use the patent versus trade secret?
You would use if it's something that you can enforce. If somebody did what's in your patent, you could easily see that they did that. Like if I discovered mRNA vaccine and a company is coming up with the same thing that I did, I could just say, hey, listen, they're selling mRNA vaccine. They are infringing on my patent. I can file a patent infringement lawsuit and I can shut their business down and have huge amounts of money for my losses for something like that. A trade secret you would have if it's something that you could not enforce. You know, if you have a special way of making that mRNA vaccine that you're only doing inside your plant, you don't disclose that in your patent because it's a very special technology and nobody else would let you into their plant to see what you're doing. You would keep that a trade secret then. So for manufacturing, tons and tons of manufacturing trade secrets.
Got it. And what is something that you think companies are overprotecting?
Honestly, in my experience in chemical industry, I don't see overprotection. I really don't. I don't.
You see underprotection, not
I see underprotection.
Okay, cool. I think that's it from me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us for Thoughtful Thursdays with Tornado IP, and we're looking forward to your comments, and please join us next time.
Thank you, everyone.